You are about to hear two New York City-based artists discuss how to pursue God, music, and a fulfilling life. I'm Melinda May.
I'm Trevor Knight, and this is Stronger Voices.
So what did you think of my show?
I loved your show. I was thinking about this right after it ended. I didn't take a single video, which I'm sorry about.
No.
But, it didn't even cross my mind to, take out my phone, which is a great thing.
That's really good.
Especially because you played what? I think it was 7 songs.
8 songs.
Played 8?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time. And there were a lot of times, between songs when you were talking about what they were about and telling stories, and it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I never even thought to pull out my phone and take video, which is good,
That's
I was
such a good
engaged.
thing. Yeah, that's a really good thing.
And the stories were really good.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't make them up. They actually happened, so that's probably why they were good. But
yeah.
I really enjoyed them, and I think they set the stage well for the song.
Yeah. I loved playing that room. It was really cool to have people sitting down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of my songs, I realize I don't want to or enjoy playing sitting down. I don't know why, but I learned that this show because I haven't played sitting down in quite a while.
Oh, so some of them you didn't enjoy playing that way.
Yeah. Some of them it was I enjoyed the feel of the audience.
Yeah.
They're it's just us, and I pictured it. We're just going to be in my living room right now. We're just going to hang out.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. And we accomplished that. But for songs like
Soup.
For songs like Soup or even Yes, Yes, they just seem better performed standing. Or I could express myself better standing or something.
No, I get it.
I'm not going to turn down a gig if I have to sit, I'll make it work, but it's just a little thing.
Would that ever happen?
What?
That you would have to sit at a gig? Wouldn't the only thing that would happen be they don't have a chair for you to sit, so you have to stand?
I guarantee there's some situation where it's
where you
look,
have to sit.
Yeah, this doesn't work.
Maybe if you have a really short guitar cable or something and you can't move around.
There you go. Yeah. Or I don't know, maybe there's only 5-foot ceilings. Who knows? Who knows? But
5-foot ceilings in a room. We should definitely use this room for live music shows. That makes sense.
New York spaces, you never know.
That's true.
I've actually stayed in an Airbnb where the bedroom was a 5-foot ceiling, and I have this is a true story in the West Village.
Is that allowed?
And I have video because it was this. I think it was an attic nook or something, but they made it into a bedroom, and so I have this video of Erica and I hunching around. It's funny. But anyway, so you had asked me a question a few podcasts ago. You said something like, was there a moment, I think it was the confidence one, so that was episode 3, that you...
Maybe it was 4, I don't remember.
Could have been 4, yeah. But the question was there a moment where you reached a new level or something like that, where... Yeah, I'm probably not articulating the question right, but that's how I perceived it. Was there a moment where you're just okay, this is no longer going to be
a problem?
Yeah,
I remember the question, yeah.
Yeah. So something like that happened regarding my live shows with the November 20th show. That, after that show, it feels so different. Show day, and this started on November 20th, but show day feels different. And the whole thing just feels different. I've definitely reached a different place about performing live, for sure.
What does that mean?
Well, you know how I said the way that you learn to play bar chords, and this is true for everybody, is you play them poorly for a very long time.
Sure. Yeah.
And one day...
I'm currently doing that.
Good. And one day you will literally wake up and play them. And I don't know if it's muscle memory or the strength of your muscles in your hands, but that is what happens. And it's actually not gradual. It's I can't do this, and now I can. Bar chords is one of those things. And something similar happened with performing live. I was trying to grasp it and trying to do it. And I did fine. Thank you, God. God has been with me. I've been playing shows for a long time. But similar to the morning that I woke up and could play bar chords, I just woke up and I think about shows much differently now, much differently. And they're so much more fun than they've ever been. And I really, really want to keep doing them. So I had a great time, and I can't wait for my show in March. It's not booked yet, but yeah. So
What was the impetus for that change?
I don't know.
Do you know? No?
I think probably like this. Maybe it's similar to muscle memory. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's.
So, but you've been playing shows for years. So every show. That's interesting because I would have thought for me it would be a gradual thing, and I would just gradually get more comfortable playing shows, gradually get used to adapting to different rooms, different crowd sizes, different sound systems, whatever. And eventually I get to a point where nothing surprises me anymore. But you've been doing all of that for a long time. And so are you saying until November 20th, you still had this feeling about shows that was not entirely positive?
Not that it was, well, first of all, yes to everything you're saying. You do get better. You do get better. I definitely have. There's no doubt. If you watch a tape from shows I did in Pennsylvania when I was 19, oh my goodness, you know? But so I've there's no doubt to that, but and my shows were definitely positive. It's not so black and white, you know, like they were like I loved them and they were blessed and I've had a really good time and really good shows, but there's just a certain confidence level that happened that wasn't there before. And not confidence in the sense of I know this is going to go great and I know I'm going to nail this. It's not like that. It's more like however this goes, it's good and right. So, for example, at my show last night, I tuned my guitar and then I didn't turn my tuner off. So I was playing guitar and I noticed it was a little quiet, but I couldn't really tell because I was lost in my song. But I realized, my tuner's still on, which means the guitar isn't going to come through the speakers.
Right.
And
I didn't even notice until you flipped it.
Okay. Yeah. It was fine. Things like that. And I made a little joke and it was okay. And one of my songs, I thought I would be cool and between lyrics, thank the server for bringing me water. And then I went to sing again and I completely threw myself off.
Yep.
And so I had to start again. But the entire time I just knew that I'm supposed to be up here doing this and I have this stage right now. And whether my guitar's not coming through the speakers, whether I trip over my lyrics, I felt very in control of what was happening. So yeah, it was a great show.
It was.
Yeah, I had fun and very thankful that I used to get off stage and literally tell myself, smile at this person and tell them thank you. Because all I could think of in my mind was, that went horrible. That went horrible. I just wanted to call my mom. That's it. You know? And I would have to force myself, no, Melinda, you say thank you for coming and you do not be gracious. But in my head, I'm like, there's no way these people could have liked that. But that hasn't happened in a long time, but certainly not in the past, maybe a couple of years. But that was a thing.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's my.
And it went so fast. It went so fast. You finished your last song, and I was with my roommate Colin, and he was like, "That was so quick." And then we checked the time, and it was 7:55, and it was exactly how long it should have been, you know?
Yeah, so I started at 7:07 or something and ended at 7:55, so that's the slot. So
perfect.
Yeah, and that is a huge deal for me that it feels short.
And it did, definitely.
Because when you go to see live music sometimes and it feels like you're there forever?
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you?
All the time.
Yes. So I'm so sensitive to that. I'm like, this has to be a show.
Yeah.
Beginning, middle, end. Has to take you, you got to be there with me the whole time. I don't want it to be, here's this song. This is totally sinking. Here's this song. Okay, now here's this song. And here's another song, So, yeah, I think it worked. But not to say I'll never have a bad show again. One day at a time with God. But I certainly feel...
You probably will.
Yeah.
You probably will.
Yeah.
Everyone will.
No doubt. But, so yeah, that's my take on it. How you feeling about your show coming up?
I feel great about it.
I'm really excited about it.
I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to attempt to play guitar and appear passable at it. And I'm like the only person who doesn't think this is weird.
Yeah.
Every person that I mention this to is like, really? You're going to, so you're actually doing that. You're actually going to try. And Yeah, whatever.
That's
I'm going to talk about that at the show, but yeah, I think it's going to be fun. You know, people
Yeah.
are there to have fun, and I'm having more fun when I do that, and I think the show is more dynamic when I can do that, where I can, like, you know, play some keys, play some guitar, do one where I'm, like, just singing. I think it'll be more interesting, you know? And I think you don't have to be, you know, Jimi Hendrix to pull off a decent song on the guitar.
No, well, you're right, but Trevor, it's so you, and this is something like I love about you. You're just like, I'm gonna go do this thing. You and other people are like, I can't do this thing, or they subconsciously think they're some type of gatekeeper. Or they need to get papers in the mail. You can do this, and you're, you know, and you're just like, no, I'm just gonna do the things and go do it. And it really, the reason what that actually is humility. Which is funny because it sounds like it might be the opposite.
It sounds to me not like that. I don't know. Explain.
Well, it takes a lot of humility to just say, like, I'm going to learn this thing and I'm going to go do it, because there's so much pride in there's pride in fear of failure and like, oh no, this isn't for me. But you don't really, you're just very... Yeah, why not? Like, why can't I do that thing? Sure. And you don't think twice, but other people do. So it's a gift from God for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been blessed. It's also so much better. Maybe not better. It's very different, and it's more versatile to be able to write with the guitar instead of just the keys. And there are songs that just don't sound as good without a guitar. Yeah. So it's so nice to be able to mess around on the guitar and figure stuff out like I do on the keys, and it opens up a lot of possibilities for sure. And I don't have to look around at open mics that only have keyboards and then use whatever keyboard they happen to have, which is like a huge crutch. And, you know, I've been doing it for a long time, and I know, like, the spots to go now, but now there's not really a place that I can't go, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
That's so good.
So the first time I, you know, performed with the guitar live was on Monday at an open mic, and it was so nice to just bring all my own stuff. Just like the only thing they provided was the stage. And and you're very used to that, but it was a new thing for me, and I loved it because I went up there, I plugged in the guitar. After I was done, I unplugged it, I put it back in the bag, I went home, and it was great. You know, all they need is a little plug. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it.
And plus, you practice on that instrument, and now you're playing with it on stage, which, you know, I have a few guitars. I have 3 guitars. So I try to practice on the one, even though there's one that I love to write on, but I try to practice on the one that I'm going to.
That you actually perform with?
Yeah, because there's something to that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I was going to comment on something else you just said. Oh, yeah. So there are some songs that I feel the same way about the keys. When I finally, like, sit down at the keys to write, because I typically write on the guitar. Mm-hmm. So when I sit down on the keys, it's like this whole new thing, and it's inspiring and great. And then when I try to perform those songs that I've written on the keys on the guitar, it's like, the second song I played last night is called Chances, that I wrote when I was 22. And that I wrote on the piano. I don't even know if I mentioned that. But it's...
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so it still doesn't quite work or fit to me on the guitar. But I think that's why I didn't mention it. I didn't want people to be aware that...
See, I wouldn't have noticed if you wouldn't have said anything. But I know what you mean. Though. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. Because in 2019, you know, the song I had that had the most attention was Giving It Up, and I never played it. You know, I never played it at open mics because it sounded so dopey to me on the piano.
Wow.
And it's so, because it's a very, like, jumpy and rhythmic song, and you just can't do that as well as I wanted to on the piano, so I just never played it. Yeah. And I'm excited to play it at the show because I'm going to play it on guitar, and I'm excited to play it going forward because I can say, if you like this song, it's on Spotify, you know? Yeah. Instead of, I'm going to play 2 random songs. And I also have stuff on Spotify, you know, if you want to listen to it. So it'll be nice to, it opens up a lot of doors for sure. Yeah. And I'm excited too because you played Giving It Up for me in my living room on the guitar. And the performance was so different than what I had seen before. And it was so good. So I'm really excited. It's going to be good. Oh, I'm glad you think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it'll be good. think it'll be fun. You know, people are there to have fun. And again, another thing I've learned from doing open mics, and not all of them go well, is if and when things go wrong, and they will go wrong.
Yes.
If anything, it's just endearing to the audience. They know that you're going through something, and they know you're up there performing live in the moment. You can't stop, and you're just doing your thing. And they already are there to see you anyway. They're not going to judge you.
Yeah.
So in general, there's not a lot to lose by, taking a chance here and there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people that are going to show up and say bad things about you, but they're just the haters. The haters only motivate me.
Yeah. And seriously, that's how you know you made it. If your brand or your message is strong enough that if you have a message that nobody, or a message or a brand that no one disagrees with or no one doesn't like, that means it's probably not strong enough for anybody to really glom onto.
To have any opinion about.
Right. It's just kind of there. And a lot of those just kind of there things make it, and that's fine. But, when you have haters, that means I'm rocking some boats, and that means there's opportunity for fans and people to really connect if there's people who don't like it. So,
do you have haters?
No.
I don't know. Do you? I bet at some point in the last few years, someone has slipped into your YouTube comments or your DMs, or sent you something that said this was bad, or you did a bad job, or this song sucks, or something abrasive like that.
One time, a woman at an open mic didn't like "Good Thing We Never Made Out" because she thought it was somehow judgy or something. So there was that.
What'd she say?
Just like a passive aggressive kind of comment.
Yeah.
And I felt bad about that for a minute, for sure, because we all do. But eventually I landed on, well, that's my story. That's really the truth. I can't tell anything else but the truth, and that's what it is. So, and there was a while there where I was getting a lot of opposition for "Good Thing We Never Made Out," because it's like, well, so what? Like, why don't, who cares if you make out with someone? Like, why is this a thing? So, yeah, but so there was that. I don't know if that counts as haters.
I think so.
A little bit. Certainly the woman at the open mic who didn't like "Good Thing We Never Made Out." But I'm sure there's stuff I don't hear. And for sure,
yeah.
Personally in life, there's definitely been people who are just like, Melinda May, no. But that's going to happen too.
That's the nature of the game.
Yeah. And especially if you're going to stand for something and be different, then that's going to, sometimes people just don't connect with that at all.
But a lot of people do. So you're better off doing something that may ruffle a feather than doing nothing that ever ruffles a feather, because the people that do support you and the people that want to hear your stuff and the people that align with your message are going to appreciate that more than, a vanilla song that doesn't offend anybody or doesn't, make any sparks.
Yeah. I had two people in the audience last night and afterwards, and I know they had a good time at the show, so this was said as a compliment, and I took it as a compliment. But he said, "Your songs are so intense." But it was so affirming to hear that, because I know I've always known that. That's why when I first came to New York to play my songs to open mics, I couldn't do it, because it would be all these people playing these songs, and then mine would just be so intense, and I didn't know how to handle that. And now and I feel such freedom. It's like, because I finally come to a place where that's who I am. That's what I write. Here it is. So, I think it takes a long time to embody and believe what you just said. Like, you have to be willing to ruffle a feather.
Yeah.
Because it's going to help somebody. It will. It'll be, because the reason why it's ruffling a feather is because there's a real message there. That's why.
Exactly.
And this isn't just true for songwriting either. This is true in life as well. You have to be not intentional about it, but you have to be, I think, willing to ruffle a feather or two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's where things that entail that level of risk is where fulfillment and joy comes from, I think. I think if you live an entirely complacent life and you never offend anybody, you never do anything outside the norm, you never take a risk, you never put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you're going to be sad. You're just going to not be fulfilled, you know?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. So there's a scripture that says, kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess it all up. But it's essentially the more you give, the more you get. And that can mean a lot of things. But one of the things that means is if you take risks and you keep going and you do things that are not, that, make you a little uncomfortable or whatever, you'll reap the benefits of that over time. There's no doubt. But and I think it's like to the person who like sows a lot, reaps a lot. And if you sow a little bit, you reap a little bit. So yeah, I totally agree. And
that's a good way to put it. 'Cause I describe when people ask me what my strategy is or what I'm doing or what my plan is, I basically tell them I'm throwing everything at the wall. I'm going to see what sticks. I'm performing live as much as I can. I'm recording as much as I can. I'm doing this podcast. I'm trying to write for other people and record other stuff. But it's exactly that. If you sow a lot of things, you'll reap more than if you sow one thing, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a really good strategy.
Yeah. So kind of related question. Your songs are pretty intense. Is that what led you to be... So you're a little different than most people I've seen live in that your song intros are just as much a part of the performance as the songs themselves. And I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah.
And we've both seen a lot of people perform that do little to no song intros. They do a song, they play the last chord, they wait for people to start clapping, and then they start the next song. And some people do like that. Like I've talked to a few people who said... I'm here to listen to music. I paid $10 to hear the music. I don't need a 5-minute intro to a 3-minute song, But I don't know. I've seen a lot of those shows, and I think if you don't have context, you're not cued into the lyrics nearly as much. And even if you do hear most of the lyrics, you won't know what they mean. So I'm a fan of those kind of intros, but how did you start doing that? Did you start doing that because you realized your songs were intense and they needed some context, or were you just always a person that said, I have this song, and you just knew I'm going to introduce it this way and then play it? Or did you used to be a person that just played songs?
I definitely used to be a person that just played songs. Like that's where this started. And me being comfortable enough as I was last night, I knew the intro to Soup last night was going to be quite long. But I've made the decision that that's what I'm doing right now. So maybe this model of show will change, but it's a very conscious decision of like, this is what I'm doing right now. As my shows, because I said before, it's very important to me that it's a show, beginning, middle, end. It feels like it goes by fast. I take people on a journey. If you want to just, so part of my performance is the storytelling, and that's a decision I made sort of recently. But I did come to the conclusion at some point that my songs do require a little bit of, let me bring you in on what's going on here. And like over the years, I've learned that. But I remember doing a show at this place called Spike Hill that doesn't exist anymore on Bedford Avenue and North 7th. And that show, I just like played my songs. 1, 2, 3. This is a song I wrote. It's brand new. Here it is, or something. So, and I think each way, it depends on who you are and who your brand is and what you like.
Sure.
For me, I love artists, and you know this by the way that I watch football. I love the people. I want to know your story. Who are you? And then I'm like, yeah, go. So that's how I think. So of course that's what I produce. I'm gonna let you know me, and like we're gonna like, even if we never meet, you're gonna feel like you're my friend and you're in on this too, because that's what I like. And there's plenty of room for people who just, this is just my song and here it is. And I like that too on occasion. But mostly when I go to live shows, I want to be taken on a journey, and I think storytelling is a part of that.
Yeah.
In addition, I think the culture and society goes through different like zeitgeists, if you will. And right now, it's very much this whole storytelling thing, and knowing who a person is part of it. I think maybe that's what I feel right now. That this is appropriate for how people are perceiving music and how people are buying art right now. They want something real and deep, I hope. But that's what I observe at this point, because we're so in each other's faces and in each other's lives with social media, and we're coming into this time where these like super polished pop stars are, I think, let me be really clear on this. I think people are craving something more real. There's even like lyrics now about like things being over photoshopped. Everybody's the culture's kind of waking up to things being,
I agree.
Yeah, and like we want to see you, and we want to see the real you. Everybody's ready for that right now. So
yeah, I mentioned that on one of the previous podcasts. The songs that I've gotten in this habit, which I like, of sending out surveys after my shows, and the songs that people like the most are generally the ones that took me the least amount of time to write, because it just came together. I had this idea and I was like, this is a real thing, I want to write about it.
Yeah.
Or the photos that seem to get the best reaction are the ones that are real. It's a real photo. There wasn't a fancy camera. There wasn't me doing a pose. It was a real photo. And I think you're right. I think that's because we've reached this age where like everything exponentially got produced and plastic and shiny, and now people are getting a little fed up with that and a little hesitant to continue to support things like that. So I think you're right. There's a bit of a return to authenticity, which is good for songwriters.
Yeah. And it's also how things like Instagram stories affect the culture. We're all looking at like into each other's lives, and you want to see that from the artists that you like. I love your Instagram stories, and other artists that I follow as well. I have my guitar on my back. I'm walking to a show now, and I'm like telling you a little something. I like that. I don't want to see this guy in this like perfect lighting, retouched photo in the perfect outfit, like making the perfect like face. It's boring now. I used to like that for sure.
And there's a time and place for that. If you're doing an album cover, or you're doing promo for an event or a show or whatever, there's a time and place for that.
Right. But that's how it all used to be.
Right.
And now nobody accepts that. They're like, no, we want the real thing. So I feel a little keyed into that too. So that movement, if you want to call it that, it's not really a movement, but that change in cultural perspective is influencing the choices I make as well for what I do on stage. So yeah. And
so when did you start doing that? So you didn't used to introduce your songs at all?
No. Not really.
So the first Melinda May show I went to was in 2018, and that was, by that point, tried and true part of your persona was,
the
stories before. Was that a gradual thing?
It was definitely gradual, but I was so afraid to talk before. I felt like I couldn't say what I really wanted to say, but I don't feel that anymore.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the surveys that I send out after the shows, there's always a person that says, I wanted to hear more of the story. And I feel like I introduce every song pretty well. And there's always a person that says, please don't talk as much in between songs. And that's what's going to happen. Yeah. It's the same as how the song itself is going to be received. Yeah. There's going to be people that are like, meh. And there's going to be people that say, wow, that was great.
What do you like doing? What do you enjoy? Do you
I as an audience member, I think I'm similar to you in that, like, we went to a show in October, great show at Rockwood, and the band didn't say anything, nothing in between songs, and they were so good, their songs were crisp, polished, great, but I didn't know anything. And because I didn't know what the song was about, it was much harder for me to pick up on the lyrics. And I enjoyed it because the music was great, but I had no idea what was going on, you know? So I need a little bit of that. As an audience member, I need at least a little bit. This song is about, you know, this breakup that changed me last year. Okay, that's one sentence, and it changes how I interpret the song, you know? It totally changes how I interpret the song because there are certain turns of phrase that you wouldn't even notice if you didn't have that piece of information, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I like to give each one of my songs at least that. If I'm playing a bunch of songs in a row without, you know, a stage shift or an instrument change or something, maybe I'll make those shorter just to make it a little more seamless. But I don't want to let any song of mine just stand out in the cold and not introduce it at all, because sure, it might sound nice, but again, I've seen it happen where the song sounds nice and I have no idea what it's about. And maybe that I'm biased as a musician and I care about music that way and I want to know what it's about, and you're that way too. But for me, it's important. And so I think at least some intro for every song, for me, is probably always going to be there, because you're not going to offend anybody by having a long song intro. There might be one person that rolls their eyes, but you will make that song for somebody.
Yeah.
So the risk reward is definitely there.
Right.
You know?
Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy it a lot.
Talking before
I enjoy it a
songs?
lot. Yeah.
Good.
Even the first shows that I did, I would write out beforehand, okay, in between these songs, I'll talk about this. In between these songs, I'll talk about this, and treat it as, like you do, like part of the show, because it is.
Yeah.
You know, you're going there to be entertained. So there are going to be people that say, I'm here to, you know, I paid $10 to hear the songs. But you paid $10 to be entertained, right?
Yeah.
You didn't pay $10 to see crappy songs. You wouldn't be more happy if you paid $10 and all they did was play music and it was crappy. You'd be more happy if you were entertained.
Yeah.
So, and I think for me, and I think for you too, the song intros and giving context does help entertain people better than just the song itself.
Yeah. And also for me, I do think that there's going to be a show where I'm like, here's 4 bangers in a row. And just boom, 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 one sentence go, like full band, like we're going to party. It's going to be great. But I don't have the resources for that right now. That's the reality. I play, it's just me right now and my acoustic guitar. And so I'm going to put on the best show that I can. And right now, that's part of that is storytelling. Mm-hmm. In my dream of dreams, I definitely want different segments of my show. Now's the time where it's just going to be me and you. I'm going to sit down with this acoustic guitar, and like now we're going to play the bangers and like dance our faces off together. So I want it all, but right now I'm going to use what I have to make the best show possible. So, but I prepare what I'm going to say. I say it out loud before I'll.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's entirely up to what makes you more comfortable.
Yeah.
Because that's what matters. Again, some people are going to like it, some people aren't, but that's the same with the song itself. Yeah. So you can't think too much about it. If you think it makes the song better, then that's what you should do. I
had the worst show. How many shows have you played?
I've played...
like your headlining show, Trevor Night.
1, 2, 3, 4. So
I had the...
I guess it depends. There have been a handful of times where I was a, special guest or like an opener or something like that, where I played a song or 2 or 3, but I wasn't the main event. So somewhere between 4 and 7, depending on how you judge that.
I played the worst show that I think I ever played at Pianos, which is where you're about to play on Saturday.
Only motivates me.
I'm sorry.
The haters only motivate me.
I didn't want to say, but...
You've already told me that.
I know, but yeah. So the problem was I was the first act of the night. The room is silent. I'm on this wooden stage. There's the sound. See, this is why I'm going to take that back. Hold on. Sorry. I was about to say something, but I don't want to... I want to be respectful to all venues. Very thankful for Pianos. So there's no background music whatsoever. It's literally my band just clanking around in silence, like setting up with 13 or 14 people like not talking to each
Yep,
other.
Yep.
And so, and the stage is really high, and the audience, like, the stage is at everybody's chest. So I'm just like above them, like doing things, plugging things in. And then my first song.
So you were out of your element before it started.
Right then, I felt really like already just kind of like, I don't know how to do this. You know,
Yeah.
this is like weird or whatever. Because I had this idea in my head of we're on this stage. I had backing tracks for this show, and like my band and I had this idea like this one's going to be a party. And to start like that, I was like, this isn't a party at all. And then so the first song comes on and it has backing tracks, super poppy, like up tempo.
Which
and
song?
My Own Thing.
Okay.
Do you know that song?
I do.
You do? And that's another song that kind of has left the set list, but I should bring it back at some point. Now, if this happened now, I would totally, like I just mentioned, I feel much more in control of what's going on. I'm the maestro here. It's my show. But at that time, I felt subject to all of these factors. So now it's, I'm just going to not use this.
I think it's also this thing, not entirely the arm. I think it's also this.
So anyway.
Can't slow us down. he tried its best, but no.
So these are too new to do that too. But anyway, so now I'm on stage and there's all this silent awkwardness of my band clanking around, and we just kind of look at each other, and I look at the sound guy and I'm like, guess we're ready now. And the first track comes on and it's this like banger, like bumping thing. And I just felt not ready for it. The room wasn't ready for it. I thought, yeah. So that set the tone. And then there were some other factors as well. And I tripped over my words a lot, and it was just, it was a rough one. It was a rough one. So
that happens.
It happens. Yeah. What was your worst show? Hold up. If the answer is like none of them have been bad, that's also totally acceptable.
Yeah, none of them have been bad.
Yeah.
I felt fine about all of them.
Yeah.
The one I felt the least, and I felt good after all of them, again. So none of them were bad. The one I felt the least happy after was our November 20th show.
That's so sad.
But it's going to happen. And I
Yeah.
think, it was like little stupid things. The microphone was never in the position I liked, and that was entirely my fault. I should have just changed that before the show started. So I was leaning too far over the keyboard, and that made me do some things that I don't normally do, and it got in my head, and then my pedal wasn't working for the first, 5 songs, and that got in my head, so I was, stamping on it, and I had to change my stance, and
You couldn't lose yourself.
it was probably
songs.
90% only noticeable to me, and that still made a difference, So
Yeah.
even if, and I know there are some people that were at that show that didn't notice a single thing. I know there are some that did, but I noticed every one of them, and that changed how I perceived the show. So I wish I could have just been in the audience and seen what it was like, and I can do that through the video and whatever, but yeah, and again, it was entirely my own fault. I let that stuff get in my head, and it probably shouldn't have. And again, it was a good show. We had a great turnout. It was super fun. Most songs I've ever played. And it was so fun to do a trade-off type style, and I think people really liked that. And that show went really fast. It was 19 songs, and I think if you would have said when people were walking in the door, you're going to hear 19 songs, half of them would have left, Oh, I don't have time for 19 songs. But everyone stayed because it went pretty quick, because the arc of the show was good. So that was a great show, and I had a ton of fun. So, yeah, it wasn't something I look back on as a bad experience at all, not even close. But, yeah, there were a few hiccups here and there that just got in my head. And I think that's good. I think that's good because now I know that they won't going forward,
Absolutely. And that's a huge thing because, yeah, that's a huge thing. Before you start your set, it's so hard, and it seems like such a simple
Yeah.
thing. It's so hard to slow down.
Because there's, 70 people in
They're
the room, and
just
they all just want to see
waiting.
you start, and
Yeah.
you're standing on stage clinking around and
Yeah.
asking the sound guy to adjust all these levels. And
Yes. It's so hard to make sure.
everything's
no,
right.
like, can I hear myself? Is everything right? I can't tell you how many shows, because this is true Melinda May fashion. Yes, go. It's good.
Yeah.
Move on, But it's such a hard thing to.
Yeah.
I literally had to tell myself, just tell them to turn up the vocal in your monitor always. Because, like, I had to make it like I'll never genuinely, like, don't even listen for it. There's too much on my mind. Just always say during sound check, can I have more vocal in my monitor? Because I always want to hear my vocals.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I totally understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
that it felt good, but
Yeah.
there's technical stuff.
And that was probably an instance where playing so many open mics didn't help me, because I've performed with so many janky setups and so many, and we've both performed without monitors. We both performed with, whatever they happen to have there. So you go on stage, you set things up, and you're like, okay, fine, like whatever works.
Yeah.
And that's how I approached the setup for that show, and I wish I wouldn't have.
See?
Yeah.
It's funny how things like that work. So when I was a kid and my family was a band, the sound was never right.
Sure.
And in my teens, it was always, can I hear more of this? I can't hear myself. Well, Dad, how am I supposed to do this? Like, how am I supposed to sing this well? Like, I can't even hear myself. Somewhere right around like 17, I literally made the decision, I will never care about this. I'm done. And then after that, I just resolved, like, I don't care if I can't hear myself. I don't care if the mix is wrong. I am just going to perform. And that helped me a lot. But in situations like that, where we're talking about, where you actually do have time and you are in a professional setting, and you can say, like,
and
hey,
people paid money to see you perform.
Yeah, totally different thing.
Yeah.
So, but because how many times have you heard people say, oh, I just had such a bad set because I couldn't hear myself? Have you?
Yep.
And I just told myself, like, because that was me every show when I was a kid. And I was just like, nope, I'm done with this. So, yeah, I get you.
Yeah. But again, that wasn't a bad show at all. It was
No,
really fun.
It was so fun.
And I think people enjoyed it.
Yeah. And you're right. It arced nicely and it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what about that show that you played besides, the first song, Taking People Off Guard, was so bad? One song doesn't make a show bad.
I just wasn't in control of the audience. I felt very subject to the audience. And that's not good. You have to lead them. Sounds weird, but you have to be like, I got you. Like, come with me. And instead I was like, ooh, like, are we just insecure? And I was playing with my band, and I just didn't feel confident. That there were so many things at that time that I wanted to say between my songs that were more honest, that I felt that I couldn't say.
Because the room was such.
And because whatever. I felt like just not, I didn't feel one with my band at that show at all. At all. And that was a big problem too. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting balance, because you can sort of do that at open mics, but you probably can't at your own shows, because a lot of times what I'll do at open mics is have 4, 5, 6 songs that I could play, and I'll just read the room and see what the best ones to play are. But I think at your own show, where people are there to see you, you're right. You can't really let whatever energy the crowd happens to be in direct how you're going to perform. You have to lead them in the direction you want,
Exactly. And especially when I was playing with other people on stage, if it's so weird because you feel each other, and music is really odd like that. I think there's something really profound and unable to be explained about music, where it connects you in some weird way, or it makes you vulnerable in
definitely.
this way.
I know exactly
what is that? It's wild.
Like, there are many times, this happened recently, a week or two ago. But it happens, probably a third of the time that I go to open mics. Literally, as I'm going up on stage, still don't know what I'm going to play, right? I sit down, I look out, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm playing these two songs, You can just tell what people need to hear. You can tell, like, what mood.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
You can just feel each other. And so, especially if you're making music together, you're vulnerable together. It's strange. So me and my band were like, that's a thing that happens. And if you feel like one of them is not feeling it or insecure, you feel that, then it's just bad. It takes so much confidence to do anything that you really want to do. But wow, does music take ridiculous faith and confidence, because for some reason, if you have a little bit of fear when you're performing, people feel it. And
definitely.
They feel it.
Of course. Yeah. I'm always amazed, and I'm like very proud of people when I see, I've played in a lot of rooms with, 3, 4, 5 people in them. And I love it when someone gets up there and it's their turn and they're playing to 4 people and they just enjoy the crap out of whatever they're doing, and they're like jumping around and telling people to join in, and it's so affirming to see that, to see someone who's so unfazed by whatever situation's going on, and to look at that situation and say, no, I did this thing, I wrote this thing, I'm going to play it the way it should be played. I'm going to play it like I was, I'm standing in front of 60,000 people at Madison Square Garden, you know? That does take... And you can fake that, but you can tell if they're faking that, You can tell if someone did make a conscious decision to say, no, I'm going to perform this the way this is meant to be performed, and I don't care how many people are here. I don't care what they think about it. This is my song. I'm going to perform it the way I want.
Yeah. That fearlessness brings you right in as an audience member.
Definitely.
You're like, I like this. Like, I'm on board. And the opposite is true as well. When someone is afraid, you feel that, and it makes you feel weird, and now everybody's weird. It's bizarre. And maybe sports is like this too. Maybe other things are like this too, but there really is no room for fear. Now, that's not to say don't do it if you're afraid. You have to keep doing it till you're not afraid, but it has to be this like really, really love-filled, confident thing.
Yeah.
If you want to bless an audience, it has to really be not about you, like big time not about you, because that's why people get afraid. That's why I get afraid. Oh, they're not gonna understand me, or this is gonna be something self-focused. But instead, if it's more audience focused, it helps you be braver, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I think in the scenario that I was just talking about, where the person decides to take a course of action regardless of what the audience is doing, I think that can be very powerful, and that can bring whatever the audience is into their frame of mind.
I agree.
So I think in some circumstances, like maybe you go up after 3 people who totally bomb, the audience is really disinterested, it's a Monday night, they want to go home, it's late. In that instance, you got to just do your thing. You got to do what you went there to do, and I think the audience will respond. So maybe that still is an audience-oriented frame of mind. I'm not sure, but yeah, in a lot of other circumstances, you do have to take into account these people are here to see something, and if I look like I'm afraid, or if I actually am afraid, they're going to key in on it, and they're not going to enjoy it as well, and I want them to enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say I've played plenty of shows where I was like basically breaking down in fear, like while playing,
right.
and people I think still got something out of it. Thank God. So it's not all black and white, but I think, yeah, it's way better for all parties involved if you just put forth the thing you have with, here it is. Mm-hmm. This is my thing. This is what I do. It's for you. Take it or leave it,
Yeah, that's another interesting question. So to what extent do you think music and the songs that you write is for you versus for other people? Because I've heard both, and I don't know. I I probably think I'm a little more on the side of for other people. It's a sonic product, right? You're creating something to be listened to. The joy for me comes from other people listening to it. And again, there's obviously joy and fulfillment in writing it and singing it, even to myself, but that's amplified when other people hear it. But I've heard it both ways. I've heard it, the people who listen to my music are like this. I want to make something that they enjoy. And I've heard it the opposite, where this art comes out of me. I don't care what a single person thinks about it. I don't care if every other person on earth hates it. This is for me,
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that spectrum?
I agree that the things that come out of me come out of me. That's not to say you can't hone your craft, but do I agree with that? Let me think for a second. Kind of. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. But also, I do think that it's definitely, when I write, the part of what gets me excited about writing a song is if I see a pattern of a theme that happens to me but also has happened to someone else. Oh, now I'm going to write it. Even last night I talked about that, and I talk about that a lot with my songs. Like, I know Gregory will understand this song. I know Erica is going through this right now. Taylor's got me on this one. It's so part of how I write songs is sometimes I'll pick a person and almost write the song for them. I used to do that a lot more in my process, where I was like, I'm going to make this song about me and my situation, but for her or for him.
Wow.
And that would help me to finish the song, because it's like, it helps you to be like, focus in on what your message is. If
That's a really good method. I want to try that.
You should. And then I would have that person, or I have that person in mind when I'm playing it. It also helps me get out of my own head. When you're on stage playing a song that you think is only about yourself, that's really personal and vulnerable, which is fine. But if you think, no, this is a universal thing and this is about you too, and I want you to have this, then it's much easier. So I do think it's for others, but at the same time, man, is it therapeutic when you get a song done.
Sure.
Man, does it feel good.
Definitely.
So, and especially if you have all this stuff going on that you just can't articulate, and then you just have this song that almost in a parable form has so many things layered in it that I couldn't write you a dissertation on what happened here. I couldn't, I can't draw a chart or a graph, but in this story, there's so many like 3-dimensional themes that I'm trying to communicate, that when you get it out, it's good. So it's both, but definitely I'd say way more for others, right?
I think so.
I think so.
At least, on that side of the spectrum for me.
Yeah.
Because even if a song is very therapeutic for you, which makes sense, like there are songs like that for me, it blows my mind that could be therapeutic for someone else, because there are songs that everybody has written by other people that you have saved in your library, that the time to play that song. When you feel a certain way, you say to yourself, I need to hear this song right now. The fact that we can create something that does that for someone else, that's so cool. Yeah. To me, that's almost better than it being therapeutic to me,
I totally agree. Yeah. Are your songs, when you, are they therapeutic to you as well, though, when you write them?
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's how I got into playing piano in the first place. That's how I got into singing in the first place. Is it's something I just like to do that brought me joy. My mom can probably tell you I used to just like play, and before I was any good, I don't know if I'm any good now, but whenever, I was tired or stressed or upset, it just makes it go away. I don't know, It's a cool thing.
It's a cool thing. When did your songwriting start?
It's kind of a foggy line. I used to write a lot of poems when I was a little kid. So in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, I did a lot of poems. I had like a book of poems that I wrote, but none of them were longer than a couple paragraphs. Some of them were pretty good, if I recall.
That's adorable.
But I never wrote a real song.
What about
which is strange because I used to sing and play piano all the time, but I just never like really connected the two. And then
what about in high school? What was your relationship with writing?
non-existent.
Really?
High school and college didn't write hardly anything.
Wow.
I was doing other things. I got so busy doing other things. I was playing sports. I was doing choir. I was volunteering. I was doing way too many things and doing all my homework and studying and trying to get good grades and trying to have a social life. And music, besides what I was obligated to, besides choir and things like that, a cappella, didn't exist. It was non-existent. So the first song that is a legitimate song, again, I think some of those poems when I was a little kid, I would like play around on the piano and it was like, oh, a nice little thing, but it was like 15 seconds. The first legitimate song, start to finish, it had a structure longer than 2 minutes or whatever, was Giving It Up in 2018. And now you can find it on Spotify.
Right, and now it's on Spotify. But that's just so, I think you have such a good story. I love it so much because it's so God. It's so God. And that's just really neat. Giving It Up is a really good song.
I like it. It's
like
fun.
it a lot too.
I'm excited to play it, Me
too.
I played it at an open mic for the first time on guitar this week, and I loved it. It was so fun.
Yeah. Giving It Up is one of those, like songs that could be very therapeutic for people, for sure.
Sure. I hope so.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I mean, I think it's a good party playlist song. It's a good, I don't care what the lyrics are because I can't hear it because there's a bunch of people in the room, but it sounds fun. You know?
Yeah. Definitely. Not that kind of guys like that too.
Yeah, I think so. That one, I think the message is probably at the forefront more so than the holistic sound. But yeah, I mean, I like them both.
Me too. And Keep on Swinging.
Yeah. I mean, they're all different, and your songs are all different too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, every song's going to be a little different. Every song, different people are going to align with more. Every song, some people aren't going to like. It's the way it goes. But
yeah,
I generally like them. I'm biased, but
yeah. We'll talk about Keep on Swinging more after it's out. We should.
Yeah.
Because that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I could talk about that.
And we should probably start winding down. So
okay.
If you have a short and or silly question that we can push this podcast off into the abyss with.
A silly question. Do you have any?
I never do, but we always seem to come up with something.
You always seem to come up with something.
Often when this happens, I will literally just start a sentence and see where it goes. So I don't have a question right now, but I'm just going to start asking one and see what happens. So what would you say? What would you say to someone who had never been to a Melinda May show and they asked for a 30-second description of what it is? That's pretty good, right? It just came out one word at a time. It started by me saying, "What would you say?" and then
I know, but it's just funny because it's just funny. Okay.
Why is that funny?
Because you're like, I guess I have to do this.
It must be done. Someone's got to
do it. So you
just
do it. You are but a soldier. That's why it's making me laugh so hard because you're like, okay, I'm just going to start talking. Okay, sorry. Here we go. So 30 seconds.
So my name is Dan, and I run into you through a mutual friend, and I'm thinking about coming to your show, and we're in like a crowded place, so you can't give me your whole life story. But I ask, what are your shows like?
Well, my shows are...
Dan. You got to address me at least.
Hey, Dan. I'm so glad you're interested in coming to my show, maybe. Here's what it's like. If you come to a Melinda May show, I will play a song that is about your life. Guaranteed. 100% certain. And there will be some laughs. You will chuckle together, but it's essentially like you and I hanging out and getting really real and me telling you about my life and but how it applies to kind of everyone's life, and playing some songs that hopefully you'll enjoy. And that's a Melinda May show, but it's a very much like, hey, do you want to come over and kind of like have a very real, deep, almost like conversation. I've been playing recently with the idea of how do I get the audience involved in shows, which is interesting. But that's what it's like. So
thanks, Melinda. Maybe I'll show up.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
I think that's a good description, and I think it's compelling, and I think it's true.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, same question.
I would say, genre-wise, I play mostly singer-songwriter pop, and I'm very confident you're going to have a good time. There's going to be some songs you can get into and vibe with. There's going to be some songs that bring you all the feels, and it's going to be dynamic. There are going to be some surprises, and you will leave feeling like however many dollars you spent was worth it. Accurate.
I'm very excited for Saturday. I am, like, even just as a fan, I've never seen a Trevor Knight show where where I just get to sit down and like vibe with everything. So you sold me. I'll be there.
Cool.
Maybe. Clear my calendar. We'll see.
All right. My people will reach out to your people, see if we can work something out. All right. I think that just about does it, right?
Yeah, let's do the exit.
Yep. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found something encouraging and interesting, and I hope you've been challenged and uplifted by our conversation.
Thank you. We'll see you next time for the next one.
We encourage you to reach out to us directly at contact@strongervoicespodcast.com with questions, comments, or discussion topics. We wholeheartedly thank you for your support.
If you like Stronger Voices, we humbly ask you to do two things.
Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
And copy this link right now and send it to the person you care most about in this world.
Thank you again, and we'll see you for the next episode of Stronger Voices.